Welcome everyone to the 911 Real Estate Call. Whether you're a doctor, managing patients,
business owner, running operations, or an entrepreneur balancing multiple ventures, this space is designed for you.
multifamily real estate investing can seem overwhelming,
But today, we're here to make it simple and easy to understand. Together, we'll dive into real deals, discuss strategies, and exchange ideas to help you grow your portfolio and generate true wealth.
This call isn't just about properties, it's about building strong connections and creating long-term financial success.
Let's jump in and unlock the next step in your investment journey.
Welcome everyone to another amazing Saturday, 911 Real Estate here, where we showcase some of the people and the folks that we know and love. So ladies and gentlemen, today what we have is you got to meet these two brilliant people if you haven't met already. They're very well-rounded, all right? That they're kind of people that you want to admire and slowly back away if you're intimidated, but maybe not. But first off, we have Somreeta Roy. She's a senior electrical and software engineer working on FDA-approved Class 3 medical implants.
Wow.
Now, that's right. It's medical implants, okay? So these devices, they go inside the human body to save lives, right? Now, she doesn't just stop there. While all of us are binging on Netflix, watching TV, Somreeta is out taking on places like Mount Everest, national parks. She does like these 20, 30-mile hikes. Last time I sat down with her. So if you want to work out, go hang out with her. She's got a heart of a humanitarian and the mind of a machine learning algorithms, and somehow still finds time to read books. So I don't know how she does it. Then there's her husband, Harshad. He designs systems for electronics that survive extreme heat, pressure, and it's in the oil industry, building, testing, innovating under the most extreme conditions. He also, both of them invest in real estate, huge in asset management, came in a few years ago through our group, and they've been a joy to sit down with and have a chat with. They're just not engineers. They're strategic, disciplined real estate investors building multifamily portfolios with the same precisions that they apply to their work. So without further ado, Harshad and Somreeta, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Alex and Eric.
Too generous.
That was way too generous. And introduction I wasn't prepared for. And I was wondering, oh, Alex, you do not binge watch Netflix. Yeah, so I'll start at the beginning. I came to the United States in 2010 to pursue a master's in electrical engineering, right? And I met Harshad in 2012, and Harshad had already done his undergrad in electrical engineering, and he was also pursuing his master's in electrical engineering. And so we got married in 2014, right? We got married in 2014, and at that time, I was good at my job, and all my focus was in my job, right? And I had no idea about finances or what to do with my finances, how to expand my finances, etc. So my idea of investing was sending money back to India and making CDs of 7% fixed deposits, right? And I thank my stars I met Harshad, because Harshad was like, you're converting dollars into rupees, which is going to devalue over time, and you're rejoicing for 7% interest on that. And I was like, oh my God, what have I been doing? And so that was when, and at that time, as a visa holders, the asset class that was available to us was the stock market, right? So that's when, I listened to Harshad. I just, maxed out my, I'm not into, active stock picking. He was, I would just, max out my 401k and do the backdoor Roth thing, invest my HSA money. So make sure, I was, invested in the right asset class, right? And that was available to me at that time. And Harshad, would, individually stock pick and everything. So all of this, went on till 2021, right? And 2021 was when we were visiting Harshad's college roommate, and all of you know him, Jaydeep and Lisa. So we were visiting Harshad's college roommate in Cincinnati, and we came to know that he just sold his house and moved into this four unit. He moved into an apartment. I was asking him what he sold his house and moved into an apartment. Who does that, right? And then that's when we came to know about the FHA loan, the fact that you can do the FHA house hacking, right? So then Jaydeep and Lisa have been such amazing inspiration for both of us, right? So we learned all about real estate from Jaydeep and Lisa. We, learned about how they did that 8 unit, then the 10 unit, then their FHA house hack, right? And so we decided to LP with Jaydeep on one of his syndications, right? That was our first LP investment in 2022 in July, right? And soon after that, what we were doing, we were just driving around Houston looking for a 3 unit. There was a 3 unit Harshad saw online, and then we did our way of underwriting. We didn't even know what underwriting was, right? And then we made a slide deck and we presented it to Jaydeep that should we buy this? These are the expenses. And Jaydeep just destroyed our pitch, like, because there are so many expenses we did not account for, right? And there were so many things we didn't know. And then Jaydeep was like, hold on, you all need the mastermind, right? So then in 2023, in February, that's when we joined the MIH mastermind. And after that, our lives completely changed, right? So one thing after another kept happening. So we joined the mastermind. We immediately started to visit a lot of local meetups, and we read every book we could get our hands on. The same story, right? Robert Kiyosaki, Brandon Turner, Morgan Housel. We read everything we could get our hands on. And somewhere in that whirlwind, we also met Alejandro and Melissa, who most of you have met. And Alejandro, you can see all of the energy that Alejandro has, right? He's like, let's go start a meetup, right? And we did. In April of 2023, we started a local Houston meetup called Deals and Dollars. And by this time, I was also posting a lot about real estate online. And when we started Deals and Dollars, that's when a lot of our friends understood that we were really serious about real estate, right? So our friends wanted to know more about things. And every month we had our MIH call with Marco and Hadar, and Harshad bought Chris Jackson's tool on underwriting. He taught himself underwriting, and then Harshad and Satya started to host this underwriting pod, right? And a lot of people came to Harshad for underwriting tips and everything. And that's kind of how you met Salil also soon after. So the whole of 2023 we just spent in education, because if you remember, 2023 was a time when the Fed increased interest rates dramatically, and things kind of dried up a little bit. So and
one deal that year,
right? We did only one deal that year. So 2022 was our first deal with LP right after joining Mastermind. We got into our second deal where we raised, around 200K for one of Jaydeep's JVs, right? So that was our, second deal. That was, right after joining MIH with, everything that we learned from MIH about raising capital. So we got into our second deal, and we kept hosting our meetup for the rest of the year. And all of this was happening while I was, while we both had our full-time jobs, and I was working on my second master's in computer science, right, with a machine learning concentration, because in the electrical engineering software world, you constantly have to upskill, right? Because 25% of or 40% of Google's code is now being written by AI, right? So I wanted to learn how to write machine learning algorithms, right? So I joined a master's program at Georgia Tech. Late 2021. So my evenings were booked, like, I was like sleeping 4 or 5 hours or whatever, right? And after 2023, 2024 was a very good year, because that's when, the snowball that we heard about started happening, right? So 2024 started with our another syndication we got an opportunity to raise for, and then when you met Salil, so Harshad and Salil started to work on the Columbus market, and we got into
first deal,
our
yeah.
first deal as Harshad and Salil were lead sponsors, right? And then the third deal last year was when Harshad was an asset manager for the first time for the deal, right? And I have tried to contribute, in my own way in Harshad's asset management deals, where in asset management there's so much of manual work, right? So Appfolio sends Harshad a lot of CSV files where with the rent roll and the delinquency, and they have these dashboards that they update, right? So what I have done is on a weekly basis, I wrote this Google app script, which is going to scrape your email for the rent roll and the delinquency reports and all those kinds of reports, scrape all of the data and update your Google Sheet, and then that's it, right? Update all your dashboards. So that takes your bandwidth away from a lot of manual work, right? So that's what I have been doing so far. Our sixth deal that we got into was like probably last month with Josh Stoll and Natasha. So and so it's been like baby steps at a time, right? If you guys have read or heard about the book The Gap and the Gain, right? We are always living in the gain. We are always constantly amazed by how much we've learned or how much we've grown over the last 1 year, instead of focusing on what we are lacking on, right?
Were there
And,
parts there were, as you guys grew so quickly, I seriously thought that you guys came in even before 2023. I didn't even know it was only 2 years. It seems like the impact that you guys have had has been even longer than that. As you step up, what were some of the biggest hurdles and challenges or aha moments that the both of you had to encounter?
some of the biggest challenges were, let me think about that.
Was it like a people challenge? Was there ever
Oh,
a
yes.
deal?
We have,
We
yeah.
hit
Oh
a
my
button
God.
there.
Yeah. So,
All right, tell us
yeah.
about that.
I mean, when you're working on deals, like, stuff like that happen, right? Those were, we saw those challenges as educational experiences, right? What not to repeat again, right? Like Harshad has been, if you ask Harshad, I want you to talk about, your troubles with, Section 8, with his 18 units, like, every time, like, oh, there are thefts today. Oh, okay, so what's happening? What are we doing then? Like a lot of appliances that we had purchased, gotten stolen. So things have been happening, like that, one after another, right? But then
Like,
you
did
have to
someone
deal with
break
them.
in and stole it?
Yeah, it's a break-in.
Oh, dang. So they watched you put it in.
Probably.
Was like,
yeah.
You know what? Tonight
Yes.
we're going shopping.
Yeah. So and then we've had troubles with partners in deals. So the problems never stop, right? You
So how
talk
did you
about
overcome
challenge.
it? Let's talk about that. The partners, because partners, when you work together, that's such a big one.
Oh yeah.
When you enter a real estate deal, it's like it's a marriage, business marriage, right?
Yeah.
What were some of the partner
Yeah.
challenges that you've had, and how did you overcome it? You don't have to name names, but
Yeah.
let's get deep here.
Only if you want to name names. No, I'm
I'm
kidding.
not
I'm
naming
kidding.
names, so
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So our biggest lesson, biggest takeaway from our problems with our partners was that, like you said, it's, JVs are, it's a marriage, right? So spending a lot more time vetting your partners, spending a lot more time, understanding what their objectives are, what your objectives are, whether you're aligned, because, it's not like, people are bad or anything, right? It's just that you may have different kinds of goals, right? It's not like we got into business with crooks or anything, but you had different kind of goals. So it's just so important to be, doing business with people you've known for a while, whose objectives you're familiar with, right? So that was, one of our biggest takeaways from some of the lessons we learned.
I think also understanding that people's priorities also change over time, right? Sometimes just life circumstances happen and then have to end up having a difficult conversation, but it can be resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you mind to share a little bit of details of what kind of difficult conversations, like like you guys came in agreeing on the same thing, and then what happened?
I'd say mostly like life circumstances, which honestly can't really do much about, but
Okay.
at the end of the day, it's about just understanding and then making sure that um, they're um, they're they're leaving the deal, but knowing that we'll still take because they also had an investment in the deal, but they're leaving knowing that their money's still safe in the deal at least. But their sort of like roles and activities are being transferred over to another person. So that's the sort of I guess truths that we came up with, right? But
Did you
yeah, I
guys know
think
about it during that time, or was it like, did you find out about it?
over time, it happened over time.
It happened over time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, would you wanted that partner to be more transparent? Was that
Maybe.
from the
Yeah.
get-go? That would have
Yeah,
helped.
that could have helped. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Speaking of
Transparency.
Yeah.
speaking of difficult conversations at times, which you do have to have that with business partners, talk about, if you don't mind, touching on being a married couple and also being in business together, because I'm always fascinated at the dynamic between married couples who are in business together and obviously have to compartmentalize, the personal side of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very important point, Eric. And I have been ever since I joined MIH. I have been more because there are so many married couples in MIH as well, right? So I've been more conscious about being kind to each other and being kind to myself, right? Sometimes I'm the one who has the OCD, right? I need to be on time, and Harshad's like he'll get his morning coffee, and I'm like, Harshad, it's 7:56. We have to be online now, right? So I'm the neurotic one. So, but I have to be much calmer. Earlier, there are things which did not work for us, right? I started assigning each other tasks on Asana, right? And that was such a disaster. Like, Harshad, you have to book blah, blah, blah for the meetup. Harshad, you have to do blah, blah, blah. Okay, that doesn't work, right? So anyway, we sorted those things out. We sit down together and we have to, it's a conscious effort every day, right? When you're working together as a married couple, it's a conscious effort to be kind and, to know what is on each other's plate, right? Because my evenings, most of the time, were booked with studies and exam preparations for the last 3 years, right? And Harshad has been, taking care of so many other things like the household, right? A lot of cooking stuff and whatever, right? So I'm just being grateful for all of that, knowing what is on each other's plate, being kind to each other, and again, living in the gain and not the gap, right? So that's like constantly on my mind, right? Oh, all of these things should have been done by now. No, let's focus on what we have achieved till now, right? So yeah, it's a very conscious effort of, just being kind on a day-to-day basis.
So, as a follow-up, do you guys have a daily routine that you go by or any tools that you use that you found have been successful in navigating both obviously your business relationship and obviously being a married couple? I know you
Oh,
said Asana was a disaster. Okay, so let's move on from Asana.
Sticky notes.
yeah. Yeah. So for me, like a notebook works really well, right? Like, and I
Old
think for
school.
fairly have a set routine on a day-to-day basis. Usually try to knock out my workout and just breakfast in the morning, then pretty much start working on my job. That goes on till like 5, 6 p.m. in the evening. Evenings, it depends. Some days I like playing badminton, so some days I'll go play badminton in the evenings, or I'll spend a couple of hours working on some of the asset management um, stuff that I'm responsible for. Uh, and so that's typically the weekdays. Um, on weekends, pretty much the same routine, but except I have a lot more flexibility. Probably hang out with friends, maybe go to a coffee shop, go get some nice dinner. But yeah, I would say for the most part, I have a pretty set routine, so that helps with the consistency. Otherwise, for me personally, I feel like things can just go astray like very quickly if I don't follow a fixed routine.
And I think this one thing that we have, which is having our own set of hobbies that we
Yeah.
engage in, because we are together all the time, we are working together all the time. Having your own hobbies, giving each other space, that has worked out a lot. That has worked out very well for us because, say, Harshad has his badminton thing, right? Every Tuesdays and Saturdays, he's like where he takes badminton lessons, and he's a pretty good player, right? And I'm probably saying that I'm really bad at badminton. But I have my running schedule, right? I run the Houston Half every year in January, so I don't train year long. I just do regular runs. So Tuesdays and Saturdays are my long runs. So whenever Harshad's doing badminton thing, I'm running, and together we enjoy a lot of indoor rock climbing. So there's a momentum in Houston, so that's our time together. So that, keeps our marriage more or less balanced, after I have yelled at him for not being on time for something. So yeah, that's, and this one thing that I was thinking about the other day, I was thinking about, where do we want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And I've stopped thinking about that because now I think that, I don't want to change a thing about our lives because right now is we are the youngest right now, that we will ever be in our lives. We are the healthiest we will ever be in our lives. And our parents are the youngest that they'll ever be in our lives, right? So right now, our parents are also, very healthy. They are still, they don't have health issues. I'm very thankful for that. So I'm very thankful for the present moment. So I've been trying to live in the present as much as I can, right? I've just recently read Sahil Bloom's book on the 5 types of wealth. One of the types of wealth is, your relationships with your families, right? So when I read that book, I immediately booked a flight to India this November, right? I usually get my parents to travel here, but then, I just, this was, Harshad's not coming. It's just, me flying there, right? So valuing your relationships, that I've been consciously doing a lot more these days. And because, there's no time like the present time. We keep making all of these plans that, earlier I was like, okay, I'm going to retire at 45 with, X million dollars. I've stopped thinking about that because the systems that we have set up right now, we have like, okay, this much money is going to go into stocks, this much money is going to go into real estate, right? We have these routines set up, and if you do the compounding math on Excel, you already see that, okay, we'll be okay for retirement. Okay. So that's why now that peace of mind is there right now in my life. I want to preserve that, right? And I want to focus on all the relationships. And like sometimes I think about, oh, 8 years later I'll be so much happier. But then I think, but my cat is going to be 16 years old at that time. I hope he's still alive, right? So yeah, things are not going to get better. You have to focus on making your present much happier, right? So the money is going to come with the systems that you've set up.
That's a very powerful statement and mindset that you guys have. And you've spoken about the 5 types of wealth, the gap in the gain. And these are all very forward-thinking thoughts, right? So many of us think, oh, what's a 3-year goal? What's a 5-year goal? How many millions? And focusing on the numbers. Is it more recent that you've had that mindset? Or was it something you've always had before? Like what opened you up to that thought process?
So for me, it was so okay. These days, I take a 1 hour long walk right before bedtime. Okay, and when I'm on my walks, I listen to an audiobook, right? And there have been so many different kinds of authors I've been listening to, right? And one of them has been Naval Ravikant, right? And I listen to Naval Ravikant, Sahil Bloom, Morgan Housel. And then there's this very, very, not very well-known billionaire. His name is Richard Wilkinson, right? So from all of them, the common message that I see is that it's never going to be enough, right?
Mhm.
Richard Wilkinson has this, Andrew Wilkinson, not Richard Wilkinson. Andrew Wilkinson has this book called Never Enough, right? So when I was listening to that, this guy's a billionaire, right? And he recently met this guy who was worth like $4 billion, and he was very jealous of Jeff Bezos. And he was like, you know what Jeff Bezos can do? Jeff Bezos can buy so many things. Can you imagine how rich Jeff Bezos is? And then Andrew Wilkinson was like, wait, what can Jeff Bezos afford that you can't? You have $4 billion. And that guy replied, a super yacht. Jeff Bezos can buy a super yacht, which I can't buy, which is worth, I don't know, $2-3 billion, whatever, right? So the message Andrew Wilkinson had was that it's never going to be enough if you're constantly chasing that number keeps moving away, right? So, and I've heard similar messages from a lot of rich people, right? And Andrew Wilkinson also talks about this guy who has like a $250 million house, but their neighbor has a $500 million house, and he was so disappointed for that, right? And he also talked about this one guy who just bought a yacht, but when he went to the dock, there was another more expensive yacht next to him. And his friends were like, oh, I wonder who owns that, right? So the message here again is that it's never going to be enough, right? Whatever you want, it's never going to be enough, right? You'll be constantly chasing the next thing, right? So that's why I've started to consciously practice being thankful, right? He's going to kill me if I talk about a gratitude journal. Like, it's the word gratitude journal, but then
Hey, I do one every day.
our mental
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with showing gratitude, right? I mean, that's what makes things better. It makes life
Yeah.
worth it, right? So talk about it if you'd like. Sorry, Harshad.
Yeah. Actually, she doesn't have one either. But I think
have
maybe
one.
sometimes you write down stuff, but yeah.
There was this Netflix show called Beef that we were watching, right? And there the lead character is Ali Wong. And Ali Wong was really, really mad at that time, right? She wanted to punch a wall. And her husband came and said, honey, did you practice writing into that gratitude journal? And then you could see it in her face. She was so much more mad, right? And then Harshad turned to me and is like, if you ever tell me to write the gratitude journal again, yeah, so I don't mention a gratitude journal anymore. But then, I thankfully I practice being consciously grateful that we've achieved way more than I ever thought I would achieve, right? One thing that I was thinking about is when I was a kid, right? I grew up in the city called Kolkata, right, in India. So Kolkata, to give you some context, it's not fancy like Bombay or Delhi or Bangalore. Kolkata is a smaller city on the eastern side of India, and that's where Mother Teresa spent all her life, right? And growing up in Kolkata, I thought the biggest and the best car in the world was this van called Maruti Omni. Okay, and if you've, it's a very, very small car, which I have seen only in Kolkata for some reason. And I did not know about, fancy cars like, my first car out of college was a Ford Mustang, a convertible Ford Mustang. But those dreams came later, right? At that time, my 8-year-old self thought that the Maruti Omni was the best car in the world. So I wanted to grow up and I wanted to buy a Maruti Omni, right? So I think about, things like that a lot. And I think about how much I've evolved, right? How much I've learned, the people I have in my circle now, the friends that I have made, right? And the education that I have now. And I'm at work. I'm working as an electrical engineer and a software engineer, which is not very seen that often, right? So I'm thankful to have attained all of that knowledge, right? And my biggest thing is meeting Harshad, right? Because if I hadn't met him, yeah, I don't know, how my finances would have been. Like I would have probably still been making 7% CDs in rupees.
So is that
So
how you guys
anyway.
got together? He gave you a good investing advice, and you're like, man, this is my guy.
That's
Tell
what
us
I was
about
going to
how you
ask you,
guys met.
Alex.
Tell us about how you guys met.
Yeah, tell us about the date.
I have to tell you about how we met, right? So it was, I had just, broken up. Yeah, I had just gotten out of a previous relationship, right? And I was in Houston. I was sad. And my friend in College Station was like, College Station is where I graduated with my master's from, so Texas A&M University. My friends at College Station was like, what are you doing in Houston? Just come over for the weekend. And I was like, I just moved here and I don't have a car. How do I get to College Station? And my friend was like, okay, let's go on Facebook. Let's go on this rideshare forum for Texas A&M University. And so this was this rideshare forum on Facebook where people post to split a ride, right? And oh, there's some guy coming to College Station next weekend. Yeah, just come with him. And what? Some random guy? I'm not going to get into a car with some random guy and come over to College Station. And he was like, oh, it's fine. You know, he's he's a student here, so just come. So that's how he came and picked me up. So that's how we met.
Yeah, and she's still mad that I charged her $10 for that
He
ride.
charged me $10 to get there. He charged me $10 to come back.
So those of us who can't think that you can't find love in an Uber car, there's a story for you right there.
That's the name of your first book, you guys.
Yeah.
Now, Howard asks, can you share some of your favorite multifamily investment and general investing or mindset books? What do you guys think?
I think this I've been thinking about a lot. You know, I made a reel once on this. My favorite investment mindset book has been Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Because you know, the way we think about money, right? You know, I feel very strongly about certain kind of, you know, investment mindset, right? You know, I always think, you know, a mortgage with low interest rate is good, right? You know, like, you know, if I have a 2% house, a 2% interest on a mortgage, that's amazing. You know, I'm going to keep it forever, right? But then there are people who don't like debt, for example. So Morgan Housel himself, he doesn't like debt, even when the interest rate is only 2%, right? So Psychology of Money, you know, kind of talks about, you know, how people have different perspectives about money, right? And that is okay. So that was, you know, one of the books which kind of, you know, opened my eyes to just the concept of money, right? So Psychology of Money, like, you know, I highly recommend that book, and, you know, yeah, everybody should read it. And apart from books, there are a lot of people that I, you know, follow for advice, right? I follow very closely Charlie Munger's philosophies, right?
That's
And
that book on the his
Poor
almanac, yeah,
Poor
Poor
Charlie's
Charlie's
Almanac.
Almanac.
That one I know you downloaded. I
Yeah.
have not read that yet.
Yeah.
And
What is it called again?
Poor Charlie's Almanac.
Ah, got it.
Yeah.
That's more of a stock book, right? You guys, because Charlie Munger is the
Sort of,
Berkshire
yes,
Hathaway. He's
yes.
Warren
It's a little
Buffett.
bit more geared towards like investing in stocks, but still
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
good in general, like good business advice.
But for
Yeah.
multifamily, you asked for multifamily investment advice, right? So there was one book which Lauren had recommended that I really liked, was The Perfect Investment by Paul Moore. So that's an excellent book too.
Yeah.
So
Even
I love
Alejandro
that.
really likes that book. Yeah.
Yeah, Alejandro likes that too.
Yeah.
Hmm,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share my reading list at some point on a post. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Samrita, one thing that I think that we should touch on too is, and I don't know if many people know this about you, but you also, in the midst of all this, started your own business. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
that
So please share with us your experiences with that too, because we don't necessarily just have a high earning W-2 and multifamily investor. We have someone who's also in the business arena. So
Yeah, right.
please share your experiences with the group with that.
So one thing that we like doing is investing in our education every year, right? So whether it's a master's in computer science, or, you know, joining MIH or joining another mastermind. So this is something that we budget for every year. So I joined an e-commerce mastermind to learn how to do arbitrage selling, right? So which means that, you know, the arbitrage form of selling is you find products which are selling at a lower price compared to what it is selling on Amazon, right? So this is Amazon online arbitrage selling. So where I had a VA who would research all these products which are selling at a lower price on which are available at a lower price from other stores, and you can source them and you can flip them and sell on Amazon, right? So that I was, this was, oh my God, like, I don't want to go back to the time when I had, W-2 and my master's and I was doing this. It was just, it's such a mess. But, if you, it was a very nice learning experience, but it was very time consuming for me, right? And the ROI on my time was not enough, right, to be able to continue that. So, but I still, made a decent amount of revenue last year doing that. I made, yeah, close to 70K in revenue on that. And, if I had hired more VAs, and put in the time to do that, then it would have gone somewhere, because one of my friends, she's on target to do 400K in revenue this year, doing that, right? But it's about there is making money. Like, there are so many options available on how you can make money, right? But the most important thing is focus, right? You can't be split so many different ways, right? If you're putting in active time, if you're not passive, if you're putting in active time, it's very important to have focus on one thing, right? Because outside of W-2, there's only one thing I can sustain, right? If it is active, right? So after the arbitrage selling, one thing that I'm currently working on as a side project is building my own private label product, right? So there's something that I researched and found which has a growing demand. So growing demand, but not that popular yet. So I'm kind of working with a supplier on Alibaba in China to make some modifications to it, bundle some items with it, and hopefully by Q4 I'll be able to sell it. So that's something that that's I'm working on.
What industry is that in?
So that is so I joined another mastermind earlier this year called it's a private label mastermind, which teaches you how to make a private label product, like how to contact your suppliers, how to do compliance checks, right? And that industry, the product that I have chosen is it's in the home goods category. So in Amazon, kitchen, home goods sell very well, right? So if you find a product which has less than 1,000 reviews, but you have at least 4 sellers doing at least 400 sales per month, that's kind of like a indication of that it's a growing, it's a product with a growing demand, but it's not saturated yet. You don't want to get into a market which is saturated. So one thing Charlie Munger always says that, if you're fishing in a large lake, which is very, very crowded, leave that lake. Go drive down the road, find a smaller lake where nobody is there, fish there, right? So that's one of, Charlie Munger's advice, right? So going by that, this is so if you have less than 1,000 reviews, that means that it's okay, there's demand for it, but it's not that famous yet. So you have only 3-4 sellers selling 400, 500 a month. That's kind of what I sometimes target. So making my first product right now, so crossing my fingers. I have not talked about this yet, but it's a learning experience. With everything we try, right, there are lots of learnings we take away from that. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And before we forget, let's have everyone take our cameras on. Thank you for the reminder, Eric. And let's take a picture. Here we go. In 3, 2, and 1. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Does anybody else have any questions for Harshad or Somreeta about their journey? Alex and I don't want to hog all the time.
I do.
Go ahead, Christina.
Hi. Okay. With the asset management and the integration that you're doing with automation, it's incredible that you made that from scratch. And then are you ever noticing anything that because you're not as hands-on, that maybe you're missing a pet fee that isn't being charged properly? Or are you still, what's your due diligence process to go through once it's automatically been entered?
Yeah. So the stuff that we have automated is basic at this point, which is what are our gross potential rents? Are we I guess our delinquencies as well? How many units are vacant? How many are under eviction? And what else? I think, yeah, so it's sort of basic at that point. If I'm looking at something like pet trends, that's going to only show up in the delinquency report, right? If that's what you're asking for, like specifically like for that particular month. If it's something that you've completely missed, that'll probably show up at an inspection later. So if that makes sense, I mean, I don't know if that answered your question.
I think for something like that, it's more manual work.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the automation that we've done is very routine work. The routine work that that you manually do sometimes. So you have a CSV, you have to take CSV data and put it into some Google spreadsheet. So that part is what we've automated. But
Yeah.
stuff like that, what you're talking about, that would require going line by line, right?
Yeah.
On your
So
expenses.
some of the like the
that,
weekly
yeah.
metrics we're looking at is like, yeah, delinquency, loss to lease, and then yeah, what are our gross potential rents? Where should we be at? And yeah, occupancy, vacancy status. So that's kind of that's the portion that we've automated so far, but I know we have like a lot more that work that still needs to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love to talk to you guys offline more and see just like a 15-minute call and see exactly how that's working.
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
you
Yeah,
scale,
yeah.
it's so
It's
important to have.
it is,
yeah,
yeah. And I think that's
right.
kind of where we were,
Yeah.
that was kind of the inspiration behind this project, is I was managing 4 properties, and every week it was just a manual process, like looking at Appfolio, opening rent rolls for 4 different assets, and it was taking easily like 6 to 7 hours per per weekend for me. So I know Appfolio has this feature where it can send you a portfolio-wide report of the rent roll and the delinquency report to your inbox. So this what the script does is it grabs it from the inbox, as long as it's a Gmail account, right? Because everything is within the Gmail domain. So it grabs the script from, grabs the report from your inbox, parses all the data, and then inputs all of that into your Google spreadsheet. And everything's already in a dashboard format. So as long as it updates all the relevant lines, like, hey, for this asset, this is the rent, this is the delinquency, the dashboards will all update automatically.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT was very, very helpful in making that script, right? That script, it's written in something called JavaScript, which all of internet is written in JavaScript, right? So if I had to do that like manually, it would have probably taken me probably 2 weeks to write it. But ChatGPT helped write that in 2-3 days, right? And you can prompt ChatGPT to help you debug the code, right? So that's kind of how we, how I came up with the script. And I can offline, I can show you a demo on how every week I put a timer on it. So every week on a Friday, it's going to so Harshad, Harshad makes Appfolio send him the delinquency report and the rent roll report in the mornings on Friday, and at around noon I have a timer to run the script, take all of the data from the rent roll and the delinquency report, and update the Google spreadsheet for three
Yeah.
properties
Yeah.
right now.
And it's since it's on the cloud, requires no intervention. It just does it on its own.
Yeah.
When she talks about the timer, I mean it's the
It's on
cloud.
cloud.
It's on the cloud. So the cloud's already, it knows that, hey, at noon I need to run this every Friday. So I have the report available for me over the weekend.
Awesome.
Mhm.
That's something you could sell too. It's another product.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's gonna require a lot more to scale, but yes.
Yeah, I have some dreams about like
Yeah.
I want to make like a front end for it so that people can sign up and with properties, and and I'll give them the template for the spreadsheet, and then they can have that in their Google Drive and it can keep getting updated. So
I love it. I'll be your beta tester.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Harshad and Somreeta? Don't be shy.
What's the next project you guys are working on right now?
Well,
I don't know.
currently the private label product that I was telling you, that's taking up a lot of my time, right? And and I have made mental mappings, of of my RSUs and stock options which are going to vest in the next few years, right? And where the assets are going to be allocated, right? So that's kind of what I have in my mind right now. But Harshad, I'll let you talk
Yeah.
about your projects. Like, but most of your time right now is on the properties
On the
currently,
asset
right?
management, yeah. I have some ideas for future projects, but all of that's going to require additional time commitment. But I'm also trying to design it in such a way that I use a lot of automation and try to make sure that a lot of my work can be done like remotely. So I think maybe that's something that we didn't really touch on previously is if you uh, look at all the endeavors that we've taken on, like asset management, her with doing online arbitrage and with private label now, everything can be done remotely. And that's intentional by design because uh, for us, family is pretty far away. Like my parents are in India, my sister's in Seattle. Same with her parents and sister, they're both in India, right? We want to be going forward and spending more and more time with them. And we want the ability to be able to run all of our businesses from any corner of the world. So we want, like, location freedom is very high on the list for us. And that's kind of why we've even like identified like these roles, right? Like, hey, asset management for my assets can be done anywhere. And the more I automate it, I can spend more time looking at either the other aspects of the business so that the routine work's like kind of taken away from me, and also the fact that I can do it from anywhere. Same with her, right? Like we don't need to be in the US or in particularly in Houston or in Texas to do a private label business because you're selling on Amazon, which is the largest platform in the world. So that's something that we've intentionally kept in mind and kind of designed our life around it.
And also, we like to travel a lot,
Yeah.
right? But, right now our travels are like they have to be done within 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, right? So when we have that location freedom, right? We want to, like we were in Japan 2 months ago and we had to wrap everything up within 2 weeks, right? So going forward, we want to design all of our systems in a way that we can, like he said, can be run from anywhere. So if we want to go to Japan, I would like to just stay there for a month, right? And we like hiking and stuff a lot, right? So we're going to Denver twice this year for hikes and stuff. So I want to just go rent a cabin in Denver and work from there for a month, right? So that freedom we don't have yet. Like we don't have complete location independence yet, but location independence is one of our goals.
I think that's the next step, right? I mean, her job as a software engineer, she's already fully remote. She's working from home. Basically, it's me. I'm the bottleneck because I have to be in office like 3 times a day, 3 times a week. But hopefully, eventually, with these businesses, we'll be able to
Harshad
take
wants
care
to
of that.
buy a house in Mercer Island in Seattle. I'm trying to deter him from that. I'm trying to, convince him that we need to go to Austin instead. But he wants a house in Mercer Island, so we have to work a lot harder to make that happen.
That's awesome. So I know you guys are only like the second group of people, couple that I know who are very intentional about location freedom. The other couple that I know, they have a house in the Bay Area and it's like a condo, but they have built their whole life around location freedom, where they spend between 6 months to a year all over the world.
Wow.
And their family just checks in on their house or they just come back once in a while. They'll be in Japan for a year. Oh, next year we're going to spend a year in Portugal. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I said, how did you even, he says, yeah, location freedom. He says, financial freedom is second, but location freedom is number one for us.
It's number one for us.
And they bring their kid with them.
Yeah.
Everything. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So
That's
it's
the
doable.
dream.
It's definitely, it's not a dream, it's doable.
Yeah, it is.
I know it's doable because someone I know done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hopefully we'll be the second one,
that's it. That's it. I'll come visit. My goal is 3 to 6 months at a time. A year sounds nice. 2 years, you never know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You mentioned going to Denver for
Mm.
hiking trips.
Mm.
The last time we spoke, your Samrita, your hiking is not. I want you guys to know when she talks about hiking, it's not like you go out for a morning hike type of hiking. Tell us about your most like extreme hike that you've done, which you usually do like once or twice a year.
Yeah, well, Houston is very, very flat, right? So I have to, travel outside of Houston to national parks or, Colorado. So some of my favorite hikes to do are mostly in Denver because I love the Colorado 14ers. And
What are
um,
the 14ers?
so 14ers are mountains which are higher than 14,000 feet, right? Ooh.
14,000 feet. You guys gotta understand that.
But
When
you're
she
not
says 14ers,
That's
she said,
high.
"Oh, just a 14er."
That's high.
What does that even mean?
So the challenge about 14ers is that, a regular hike at sea level, one of the hardest hikes, that I've done is in California, Half Dome. It's just a lot of endurance, right? It's like a 17-mile thing, right? So, and it took me like 14 hours to complete, right? All day from like 5 a.m. till 8 p.m. Like during the first half hour of the hike, my watch declared that I'm done with my workout for the day. And I had 13 and a half hours to go, right? So that was so challenge for that was endurance, but the challenge for 14ers is the air is much thinner at those higher altitudes. So if you're not accustomed to that area, it's not good, right, for you. Like you'll have
You could
difficulty
die.
breathing.
People
Yeah,
could die on
and
these.
well, if it's Everest, then you'll die, right? But then 14 hours, Colorado 14 hours are still doable, but you have to acclimatize yourself to that weather, right? Like we were in Alma, we went for that Mount Democrat hike, which is one of the Colorado 14ers, and we were in Alma, which is one of the highest towns in the
It is
United.
the
It's the highest
highest elevation town,
town in the
something
US.
as like 10,000 feet, I believe. Yeah.
And Harshad was sitting on the bed, right? Harshad's like, my heart rate is at 120. Why is my heart rate at 120?
Yeah.
Right? So you
I
have
was
to
not doing
acclimatize
anything. Like I was
Just sitting there on the
sitting on
bed.
there, and then in my because you're breathing a lot harder because there's less oxygen in the air.
You
And
should
Mount
have said, "I was
Democrat.
just so excited about you, Samrita." That's why my heart sitting there is beating at 120.
So that Mount Democrat hike, that was in Thanksgiving, and winter hikes in Colorado should not be done. It should be banned. Like there was just one other couple on the trail, and I was there with three of my friends, and there was a blizzard. And I thought I was going to die. Yeah, I have an Instagram picture on that. But then we somehow completed it. My hands were freezing. We barely took a picture, and then we just came back. But those kind of things, winter hikes on 14ers in Colorado, you probably should not be doing. But that's why after that I've been doing more summer hikes, right? So 1 month from now I'm going to go to Mount Sherman in Colorado. So that's one of the easy 14ers, which is going to be a training for a 13er, which is harder, called Mount Meeker in Colorado. It's a class 3 13er with a lot of scrambles and stuff, right? So yeah, like Colorado 14ers are some of my Grays and Tories. I liked Grays and Tories. Like the tallest Colorado 14er is Mount Elbert. I loved Mount Elbert. So I do a couple of those like every year. So
Couple of those every year. So
yeah.
next time when Samrita invites you to a hike, just be careful. Just be like, "Hey, we're going to Colorado. We'll meet you up. Just meet us for a hike." She takes you up 14,000 feet. Right? Where's Harshad? Oh, he's like down there enjoying coffee. I mean,
that's pretty much what I do. I'm
Right?
usually drops her off, and then I'll probably like
So Harshad and my best friend,
You're like, where's the
wife
Starbucks?
and so my best friend's wife and I, we love to do these hikes, right? So Harshad and my best friends, Siddharth, they just drop us off, his wife, and and Harshad drops me off at the trailhead, and then they go to a coffee shop. They get all pizzas ready for us. We do our hike, and then we come back, and all pizzas are ready for us. So it's an amazing thing, man. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys for sharing your personal lives, your professional lives, and everything in between. And we really appreciate you in our group and coming on early in the morning
Yeah,
as
no,
well on a Saturday.
no, really,
So-
thank you for having us in this. MIH is a pretty amazing group. I mean, for us, it's been life-changing,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
really
yeah.
thanks to Marco and Hadar. It's been an awesome journey so far.
Marco, Hadar, and Jaideep and
Jaideep,
Lisa.
yeah,
Like,
so,
I really
yeah,
want to
yeah.
thank Jaideep and Lisa for
Jay's hair changed.
Jay's here. Yeah.
Jay, what's happening? Like your hair's different.
Yeah, right. I
You
mean,
growing it out or what?
he's looking blinged out this morning.
Thank you, Alex. Well, growing my hair, but I'm trimming the sides to make the volume look bigger. Yes, it's working.
I get it. I've
But
done
no,
it, my
it's,
friend.
uh,
I'm with you.
It's such a pleasure to be on this call and listening to Harshad and Somreeta. I mean, we talk almost every day, every other day. So, we're pretty closely connected. I've known Harshad since undergrad, and it's so amazing to see their journey and everything that they're doing. I mean, you all just heard the million things that they're working on. It's just gives me a lot of pleasure. And to be doing it together, actually, the deal that we just closed on with Josh and Natasha, we are on that one together, and we are looking at about 5 more collectively underwriting deals that Harshad is helping me on. So it's so much fun to be doing this with your friends, right? You don't get to pick your colleagues, but when you're working for yourself, you get to work your colleagues. So that's a huge honor, actually. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
And and taking trips together, we usually
yeah.
take a trip once a year together. So, that way it's kind of
Yeah.
work and pleasure combined, which is another awesome thing we get to do. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Harshad, Somreeta, thank you so much. I know I put you guys on the spot, with not a lot of time to prepare for this. So I just want to thank you for delivering just such great educational value and an outstanding presentation to all of us today. I truly appreciate it. And I'm so glad we had you on.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
See you guys. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
That's a wrap for today's 911 real estate call.
Thank you so much for attending, sharing your thoughts, and learning with us today.
Real estate isn't just about numbers, it's about creating intentional moves and finding opportunities that align with your goals.
Whether you're saving lives, leading a business, or growing your investments, the goal is to make your money work for you.
Stay engaged, keep learning. Let's keep pushing forward towards financial freedom.
We look forward to seeing you on our next call.
Until then, stay focused,
Stay connected and keep building wealth
one property at a time.